You are listening to Crime Unraveled, a Buck Taylor novel by Chuck Morgan.
Chapter 16. Bax, Buck, and Paul were sitting in the command center tent that was set up in Vogelar Park, along with about 100 other people, listening to the governor and his team talking about progress on widening Cottonwood Pass Road and making it a legitimate alternate route for the missing section of I-70. Buck was getting bored. Every time it sounded like progress was being made in the discussion, someone would oppose some part of the plan. Buck could see that the governor was getting frustrated. It had been 2 days since the rockslide had sealed off the canyon, and he couldn't get people off dead center. Buck figured he would soon take things into his own hands and sidestep everyone. Buck felt his phone vibrate, pulled it from his belt, and looked at the number. He stood up and stepped out of the tent. Taylor. Agent Taylor, Jeremy Ratzenberger. Hope I didn't catch you at a bad moment. No, doctor. Now's good. What have you got for me? Well, sir, we have a problem. What kind of problem, doctor? We found a dead body in one of the fault lines. From the looks of it, it hasn't been dead long. Buck had half an ear on what was happening in the tent, but at that, he turned and walked away. Doctor, did you just say you found a dead body? Yes, Agent Taylor. We were investigating a series of small fault lines north of Cottonwood Pass Road and discovered a body at the bottom of a crevice. According to Todd, who climbed into the crevice, the body is a man, and he was shot in the head. Doctor, can you send me your coordinates? Yes, sir. Sending them now, said the doctor. What should we do? Doctor, please stay right there and make sure no one goes near the body. I'm on my way. Buck disconnected the call, returned to the tent, and tapped Bax and Paul on the shoulder. They looked up, and he pointed with his chin towards the entrance. They stood up, grabbed their backpacks off the floor, and headed for the tent flaps. Buck walked forward a few rows, tapped Garfield County Sheriff Paul Weaver on the arm, and did the same thing. The sheriff spoke with the person sitting next to him, then stood up and followed Buck. As Buck reached the tent flaps, he looked back and noticed that the governor, still talking, had his eyes on Buck. Buck stepped through the flaps and led Bax and the sheriff away from the tent. What's going on, Buck? Asked Sheriff Weaver. I just got a call from the USGS geologist I've got working in the field. They found a body at the bottom of one of the fault lines they were looking at, off Cottonwood Pass Road. I sent you the coordinates. Bax and I are heading up there now. I've got a deputy sitting on the summit, monitoring traffic. I'll have him head over and set up a perimeter. I'll follow you guys after I call the office. The sheriff stepped away, pulling out his phone. Buck looked at Bax. Why don't you head up there? I'll follow as soon as I call Seema and Franklin. I'm gonna see if the director can get them a chopper. It will be faster. You got it, Buck. I'll see you there. Paul, work with George and Mel, and let's narrow down the list of black SUVs and open an investigation file. Around the CBI office, Buck was known as a technological dinosaur. He was happiest when he had paper files and his little notebook, but the times were changing, and Buck tried to change with them. CBI had gone digital a couple of years back, so instead of having a blue binder for each case, Buck just had to open a program on his laptop. The new case was automatically assigned a case number, and Buck would list everyone who needed access to the file and send them email invites. All evidence, lab reports, photos, etc., that were part of the case would be uploaded to the file, and anyone needing access just had to open the file. That was much better than the old system, where everything had been placed in the binder by hand, and Buck would spend half his time tracking down who had the binder. Even for a tech dinosaur like Buck, this made his life so much easier, and he had ready access to anything he needed. Buck just had to click on a file and open the chronology page, which was the first page in the file. Nothing was ever entered into the file without a note entered in the chronology first. The chronology kept track of everything that happened in the investigation. No worries, Buck, said Paul. He turned and headed for his Jeep. Buck pulled out his phone and speed-dialed a number. The director answered right away. Hey Buck. What's up? Afternoon, sir. I just got a call from the geologist. They found a dead body at the bottom of one of the fault lines they were investigating. I need to mobilize the troops, but I have a favor to ask. Can you get a Kang chopper to pick up Franklin, his team and Seema, and get them to the coordinates I am sending you? It will be faster. Traffic on Cottonwood Pass Road is a nightmare. No problem, Buck. The governor said, whatever we need. You think this has something to do with the rock slide? Don't know, sir, but it seems odd that we would find a body in a fault line we are looking at. Buck, I read your report last night. I get the feeling you are leaning towards this not being a natural disaster. Am I right? Possibly, sir. This body may give us some answers. Okay, Buck. Call Franklin and Seema and tell them to head to the Grand Junction Airport. I'll get the chopper in the air. Thanks, sir. Buck disconnected the call, called Franklin Williams and Dr. Seema Kalish, and gave them the information he had just given the director. They both indicated they would head right over to the airport. He thanked them and hung up. He turned to head for his jeep and found Governor Kennedy standing in front of him. He reached out and shook Buck's hand. Buck, you look like something's going on. What's up? Not sure yet, sir. He told the governor about the body in the crevice and that he had mobilized the team. The governor was quiet while Buck spoke. Coincidence, Buck, or something more nefarious? Asked the governor. We'll know soon enough, sir. It could be nothing, but someone shot in the head and dumped always gets my attention. The governor looked around, then stepped closer to Buck. What do you think so far, Buck? Was this natural or man-made? Too early to say definitively, but with what we've uncovered so far, it looks less and less like a natural event. Okay, Buck. I'll let you get to it. They shook hands, and the governor headed back to the tent. Buck picked up his backpack and headed towards his jeep. He threw his backpack onto the passenger seat, slid in and hit the gas. He hoped he wouldn't have to use the lights and siren, since there was little room to maneuver on the pass. The traffic on Cottonwood Pass Road was flowing better today, and after an hour, Buck's GPS told him to take a left on a small dirt road. He turned and headed towards the flashing lights he could see in the distance. A Kang Blackhawk helicopter was sitting on a flat piece of ground a couple of yards from the emergency vehicles, its blades turning. Several white-clad figures were moving boxes of equipment from the chopper to where the vehicles were parked. Buck parked next to Bax's jeep and slid out, grabbing his backpack. The small group was standing near the crevice, and Bax was putting on her climbing harness. She'd spent many vacations rock and mountain climbing with her father and was an expert at both. She was talking to Seema and Franklin when Buck walked up. Seema. Franklin. You guys good? He asked. Dr. Seema Kalish, dressed from head to toe in white tie Vec, was putting on her N95 mask when Buck walked up. She turned and shook his hand. Dr. Kalish stood about 5'2". She had medium dark skin and jet black hair tied up in a bun, but her most striking feature was her incredible blue eyes. Seema laughed. I wish you would go work in some other part of the state. I haven't had a break in weeks, thanks to you. Buck laughed. It had been a tough couple of months. First with the mass shooting at the drag club outside Grand Junction, where more than 70 people, both patrons and entertainers, perished, and then with the 11 bodies found buried under white roadside crosses on the Grand Mesa, the work of a serial killer of many years. Seema and her team had been busy. Buck laughed. Hey, look at it this way. This is only one body. Yeah, said Seema. With you around, it's never just one body. Everyone laughed, and Buck stepped over to Bax. What's the plan? He asked. Bax clipped her carabiner onto the rope that snaked down into the crevice, and she spun the lock. I'm gonna go down and take a look. I'll take some pictures for Seema and Franklin. Not a lot of room to work down there. If Seema's good, Todd and I will hook up the body and pull it out. It will take too long to get search and rescue up here, so we'll take care of it. Okay. Be careful. Buck stepped back to give her room, and she stepped off the top of the crevice and climbed to the bottom, where Todd was standing off to one side waiting. She pulled out her phone, switched to video, and yelled up to the crowd at the top that she was filming. She moved towards the body. She examined the body and the shoulder bag from top to bottom, and then sent the video to Buck's phone. She stood back and waited. Buck's phone chimed. He pulled it from his belt and opened the text message with the attached video. Franklin and Seema stepped next to him and watched as he ran the video. He ran it several times until they both nodded. He walked over to the edge of the crevice. Okay, Bax. We're gonna send down a body bag and another rope. While Buck was watching the video, the deputy, Gomez, according to the name tag on her uniform, had pulled her SUV around so it was facing the crevice and pulled out a long cable from the winch attached to the front bumper. Buck took the body bag from Franklin and attached it to the cable, and the deputy lowered the cable into the crevice. Got it, said Bax. Give me another 15 feet. The deputy let out more cable till Bax yelled to stop. They waited a few minutes, and then Bax yelled up to pull in the cable, which the deputy did. Bax and Todd climbed out of the crevice alongside the body bag to keep it from banging into the rough walls. At the top, Buck and Franklin grabbed the side handles, pulled it clear of the crevice, and set it on the ground. Seema stepped over and unzipped the bag. She took a liver temp and examined the body. She held up the two hands. No defensive wounds. She put the hands down and moved the head from side to side. One bullet hole behind the left ear. She pulled out the thermometer. Based on rigor and liver temp, he's been dead at least 12, but not more than 24 hours. I'll know more when we get him on the table. The rest of the scratches and bruising came from falling into the hole. She zipped up the bag, and Buck, Franklin, Sheriff Weaver, and the deputy carried the bag to the helicopter and placed it on the floor. Dr. Kalish and her assistant climbed into the chopper, and the rest stepped back as the rotors turned and the chopper lifted off. Now out of her harness, Bax handed Franklin the shoulder bag, which he placed in a large evidence bag, sealed it, and signed the flap. She looked at Buck. There's a laptop in the bag, and he had a phone in his pocket. She held the phone up and handed it to Franklin. Need to get those to Mel and George, and we'll need a warrant. I'll call Mel. She handed Buck a leather trifold wallet, which he took after putting on a pair of black nitrile gloves. He opened the wallet and looked at the driver's license. He held it up so the sheriff could see. He pulled out his phone and took a picture of the license, attached it to an email, and sent it to George with a note to do a full background check. He handed it to Franklin, and it went into another evidence bag. I'll call Eagle County and see if they can do the family notification, said Sheriff Weaver. Let me know if you need anything else from me. They shook hands, and he headed for his SUV after telling Deputy Gomez that she could head back to the top of the pass. Buck stepped over to Todd and Dr. Ratzenberger. Todd, thanks for your help today. I appreciate it. No problem, said Todd. I'm gonna head back to the truck with our gear. He shook Buck's and Bax's hands and started loading up his gear. Buck looked at Dr. Ratzenberger. Quite the day, huh? Yes. Not what I expected when we set out today. Doc? Any initial thoughts? Asked Buck. I can tell you conclusively that this was not an earthquake or any other geological phenomenon. There is no evidence in any of the fault lines that anything moved. I believe you are looking at a man-made incident, but I want to go back into the canyon and see which stratification level sheared off. Might tell us something. Buck looked at Bax and then back to the doctor. Without a doubt? Yes, Agent Taylor. Without a doubt, he said. I'll send you a full report when I get back to Denver, but I am certain of my findings, and Todd agrees. I don't know where that leaves you, Agent Taylor, but I hope you get to the bottom of this. He walked away, stopped, turned, and pulled something out of his pocket. He flipped it to Buck, who caught it and looked at the small crystalline rock. He looked at the doctor. That's a piece of neodymium, Agent Taylor. That's one of the 17 rare earth metals. I found that yesterday morning while we were talking at the rock slide. That shouldn't be there. We need to look closer at the rock slide. Dr. Ratzenberger and Todd grabbed their gear and headed towards their SUV. Buck turned and looked at Bax.
Thank you for listening to this chapter of Crime Unraveled, a Buck Taylor novel by Chuck Morgan. You can find the entire crime series as well as other novels by Chuck Morgan at chuckmorganbooks.com or on Amazon.